Cleveland has seen big wins before, but never like this. One rookie doubted by scouts, dismissed by coaches, and ripped apart by the media just walked into his first NFL start and changed everything. This wasn't simply a debut, it was a declaration. The kind that silences every critic in the room and sends shockwaves through the entire league. From the moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto that field, the energy in the stadium felt different, charged, electric, almost unreal. And by the time the scoreboard read 30-10, it wasn't just the Panthers who were stunned, it was the entire NFL. But what really happened that night? How did a fifth-round pick go from controversy to Cleveland's franchise savior in just 4 quarters? Just months ago, Shedeur Sanders' name was surrounded by doubt. Drafted in the 5th round, a pick many called a reach, his arrival in Cleveland sparked more arguments than applause. Ownership had forced the selection, the coaching staff wasn't fully on board, and fans were split between curiosity and outright skepticism. Add in the shadow of a high-profile QB suspension, and the Browns' locker room was already a powder keg before Sanders even took a snap. But on this night, all of that noise disappeared the moment he emerged from the tunnel. No nerves, no signs of pressure, just calm, focused determination. Teammates, especially the veterans, noticed. You could see it in the quiet glances exchanged during warm-ups, the unspoken recognition that something was different. Sanders wasn't here to survive his debut, he was here to take control of it. And as the first quarter began, it became clear to everyone watching, this wasn't the same rookie who had been doubted since draft night. This was a quarterback playing with the poise of a 10-year veteran, and Cleveland was about to see why. And it all started with one drive that would set the tone for the rest of the game. The ball was in Sanders' hands, and the crowd was buzzing with that restless, first-drive anticipation. Nobody knew what to expect. Some were bracing for rookie jitters, others for a cautious, run-heavy opening. Instead, Sanders gave them a masterclass in control. First snap, a play-action bootleg. Carolina bit hard, leaving him rolling right with a clear view downfield. No panic, no hesitation, just a crisp strike to a crossing route for 15 yards. The crowd roared. Second play. A quick slant. Reading the cornerback's aggressive stance and punishing it for 8 more. Then came the moment that shifted the entire night. The Panthers showed a cover 2 look, but Sanders spotted the middle linebacker creeping toward the strong side. Without blinking, he audibled, changed the protection, and motioned his receiver into the perfect spot. At the snap, he pumped once to freeze the safety, then dropped a 42-yard bomb right between the coverage. The stadium didn't just cheer, it detonated. 3 plays, 65 yards. A rookie quarterback had just walked into the NFL and carved up a veteran defense like it was a backyard scrimmage. Moments later, a perfectly sold fake in the red zone led to a bullet touchdown pass in traffic. Sanders didn't just announce his arrival, he set the tone for the entire game. But Carolina wasn't done yet, and the real test was still to come. By the 3rd quarter, the scoreboard read 17-7, but anyone who's followed Cleveland football knew the danger. This was the point where momentum often slipped, where promising leads turned into painful collapses. And when Carolina's offense started to string together plays, you could feel a familiar unease creeping into the stadium. The Panthers were pushing, the crowd was getting restless, and this was the exact moment where countless Browns quarterbacks before had crumbled under the weight of the moment. But Sanders? He didn't flinch. Instead, he engineered what can only be described as a pressure-proof drive, 12 plays, 7 minutes, and 3 perfectly timed third-down conversions. He mixed the run and pass with surgical precision, controlling the clock while steadily marching downfield. The drive ended with just a field goal, but it felt like so much more. It was a message. This is my game, and we're not letting go of it. By the time the Browns' offense trotted off the field, the tension had broken. Chants of "Cubone, Cubone" began rippling through the stands, growing louder with every possession. It wasn't just about this one drive, it was the moment Cleveland realized their search for a franchise quarterback might finally be over. And as the game wore on, the numbers started to pile up, but they told only part of the story. On paper, Sanders' debut might look solid but unspectacular. 14 completions on 23 attempts, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. Good numbers for a rookie, but nowhere close to telling the full truth. The real story was hidden between the lines. 0 sacks despite facing constant blitz pressure from a Carolina defense that came in ranked among the league's best at disguising pressure. A third down conversion rate over 60%, keeping drives alive when they mattered most. Perfect execution in the red zone, turning opportunities into points instead of settling for empty possessions. And then there were the moments that don't show up on any stat sheet, changing plays at the line, manipulating safeties with his eyes, and forcing Carolina's linebackers to guess wrong again and again. Every audible, every read, every decision looked like it came from a veteran who'd been in this league for years. More importantly, his composure elevated the entire team. The defense played faster, knowing the offense could sustain drives. Special teams executed sharper, knowing field position mattered. And the coaches, once hesitant to trust a rookie, were suddenly calling the game with full confidence in their quarterback. But not everyone in Cleveland was celebrating. Somewhere across town, another quarterback was watching and realizing his time was almost up. While 0 fans inside the stadium were chanting "Q-Bone," Dillon Gabriel was watching from home, suspended, sidelined, and suddenly irrelevant. Just months earlier, he was expected to be Cleveland's future. Now, he was witnessing that future unfold without him. Sources say Gabriel's camp stayed quiet during the game, but not for long. By the final whistle, rumors began swirling that his representatives had already opened trade discussions. There was no talk of a competition anymore. The competition was over before it could even restart. For the Browns' front office, the shift was seismic. Ownership, long criticized for forcing Sanders' draft selection, now looked visionary. The coaching staff, who had initially resisted the idea, suddenly had no choice but to embrace it. And the fan base? They weren't just convinced, they were united behind one name, one number, one quarterback. It was a brutal reality for Gabriel, but in the NFL, performance speaks louder than politics, and on this night, Shedeur Sanders' performance was deafening. Inside the locker room, the celebration wasn't just about a win, it was about the birth of a new era. The locker room after the game wasn't the usual post-victory scene, it was something closer to a coronation. Veterans who had endured years of chaos were smiling like rookies again. Players weren't just celebrating the score, they were celebrating the feeling that, finally, the Browns had their guy. Multiple reports say team leaders stood up and spoke, calling Sanders the future and urging everyone to buy into a championship mindset. Tight end David Njoku made his point without a word. He walked into interviews wearing Sanders' jersey. Owner Jimmy Haslam, the man who pushed for Sanders on draft night despite the backlash, entered the locker room beaming. Observers say he embraced Sanders for an extended moment and told him, "You proved everyone wrong, including people in this building. Never forget who believed first." Sanders' response? Calm, measured, and telling, "This is just the beginning. We're building something special." Even head coach Kevin Stefanski, who had preferred Gabriel months earlier, dropped the diplomatic tone. In his post-game presser, he was direct. "There's no controversy. Sanders is our quarterback." Next question. And GM Andrew Berry? He wasn't just smiling, sources say. He was already exploring an early contract extension, locking in Sanders before his value skyrocketed. But it wasn't just words that made this night unforgettable, it was the plays Sanders made to earn them. Every great debut has that moment, the one fans will talk about for years. For Shedeur Sanders, there were several. First came the sideline missile in the second quarter, a 25-yard strike to Amari Cooper while on the run, threading the needle between two defenders. Most rookies would have thrown it away. Sanders zipped it in like he'd done it 1,000 times. Then, in the third quarter, came the pocket escape that froze the stadium. The Panthers brought an all-out blitz, and it looked like a sure sack. Sanders sidestepped one rusher, spun out of another's grasp, and hit Elijah Moore across the middle for a crucial third down conversion. That play didn't just keep the drive alive, it broke Carolina's spirit. But maybe the most telling moment wasn't even a throw, it was a check at the line in the fourth quarter. Reading a disguised blitz, Sanders audibled into a draw play that gashed Carolina for 18 yards. It was a veteran move, and it showed he wasn't just reacting, he was controlling the game. These plays didn't just move the chains, they moved the locker room. Teammates saw a rookie who wasn't afraid to take control, a quarterback who could win with both talent and intelligence. And when the final whistle blew, it was clear, Sanders wasn't just playing in the NFL, he belonged here. The question now wasn't if he could keep the job, it was how far he could take this team. When the clock hit 0, the scoreboard read, "Browns win," but that wasn't the real story. The real story was that Cleveland longed the punchline of NFL quarterback jokes finally had hope. Shedeur Sanders didn't just survive his debut, he seized it. He turned a game that could have been just another rookie start into a statement heard across the league. He proved that preparation, poise, and pure competitive fire can silence doubters faster than any press conference ever could. Outside the stadium, fans weren't just chanting Browns, they were chanting his name. On social media, highlights of his throws, his audibles, and his calm swagger spread like wildfire. Analysts who questioned if he was ready were suddenly asking if the Browns were a playoff team. In the NFL, moments like this don't come often. One game doesn't make a career, but every era has a beginning, and this felt like one. Sanders didn't just walk into the league. He kicked the door open, planted the flag, and told the football world, Cleveland's future starts now. And somewhere, in the offices of every AFC defensive coordinator, film rooms were already running, because everyone knew they had a new problem to solve, number 12 in brown and orange. By the time Cleveland fans were waking up the next morning, Shedeur Sanders had already taken over the national conversation. Sports talk shows weren't just reacting, they were exploding. On First Take, Stephen A. Smith leaned so far forward in his chair, it looked like he might fall out. "This kid's got IT. I don't care if it's one game, some players you just know. And this young man, oh, he's the real deal." Over on Good Morning Football, Kyle Brandt compared Sanders' rookie debut to Joe Burrow's calm under pressure in Cincinnati. Then Skip Bayless, never shy about a hot take, dropped a bomb on Undisputed. "I'm telling you right now, this is the most NFL-ready rookie quarterback I've seen since Andrew Luck." The hype was real, but so was the pushback. Former Browns QB Brady Quinn threw some cold water on the celebration. "Let's not crown him yet. The NFL adjusts quick. Defenses will have tape. We'll see if he's still doing this in November." But that skepticism only made the story hotter. It became a talking point: was Sanders for real or just a one-game wonder? Meanwhile, the internet had already decided. Instagram clips of his precise sideline throws racked up millions of views. YouTube compilations titled "Shedeur Sanders' First Game Magic" were trending. TMZ even posted a feature on his calm swagger, with paparazzi shots of him arriving on game day in a perfectly tailored brown suit and gold watch. By midday, Sanders wasn't just a sports headline, he was a cultural headline. Cleveland, a city starved for football heroes, suddenly had a new face on billboards, talk shows, and highlight reels. Inside Browns headquarters, there was no mistaking it, things had changed. Sanders' locker, which had been tucked in the rookies' row during training camp, was moved closer to the veterans section. It was subtle, but in NFL culture, that's respect you earn, not request. Defensive captain Myles Garrett, usually reserved when it came to talking about offensive players, spoke up, "When your QB plays like that, you want to go to war for him. Simple as that." Nick Chubb, the Browns' quiet but respected leader, posted a picture on Instagram of him and Sanders fist-bumping with the caption, "Q-bone, period." Even the offensive line, big men who had spent all of camp protecting Dillon Gabriel, were sold. One lineman, speaking off the record, told a local beat reporter, "Man, he makes our job easier. Ball's out quick. Reads the defense. You can feel the difference in the huddle. He's different." The Sanders effect wasn't just hype for TV, it was chemistry, the kind that doesn't happen overnight unless a player truly commands it. In the NFL, your teammates can smell fake leadership from a mile away, but with Shedeur, it was real and it was spreading fast. But in football, the celebration window is short. The next challenge was already waiting: a primetime road game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not just another opponent, the rival. The AFC North's most physical, bruising defense. And they'd be gunning for the rookie. When Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin was asked about Sanders, his answer was pure Tomlin. "He's talented, poised, but we like to test poise." Translation? They were planning to hit him early, hit him often, and see if the rookie could handle it. Sanders knew it too. In his post-game press conference after the Panthers' win, he smiled when a reporter mentioned the Steelers. "Yeah, I know about that defense, that's the fun part. Week 1 was about proving he belonged. Week 2? That would be about proving he could take a punch and throw one back." Cleveland fans were already counting the days. Social media was hyping it as Shedeur's first real test, and in Pittsburgh, the defense was already dissecting every throw from his debut. The Browns had momentum, Sanders had the spotlight, and the Steelers? They had a rookie QB in their crosshairs. The countdown begins. 7 days. That's all that stood between Shedeur Sanders and his first true trial by fire Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. The entire AFC North had circled this matchup the second the schedule came out, but now, with Sanders suddenly the most talked about rookie in the NFL, the hype had gone nuclear. Every sports bar in Cleveland was running promos for Browns versus Steelers, the Sanders game. Local radio stations were counting down the hours, calling it the most important Week 2 matchup in a decade. ESPN analysts debated every possible angle. Could the Browns' O-line handle the Steelers' relentless pass rush? Would Sanders be able to make tight window throws against a secondary known for baiting rookies into costly mistakes? For Shedeur, none of that mattered, at least on the surface. When he walked into the Browns' practice facility on Tuesday morning, he looked calm. Hoodie up, headphones on, same gold watch from his debut, and that same slow, confident walk. But those closest to him could tell this one meant more. The Pittsburgh factor. Steelers Nation isn't just loud, it's hostile. Ask any quarterback who's walked into Acrisure Stadium in prime time and they'll tell you. It's a different kind of noise, not just volume but venom. The terrible towels spin like a sea of gold lightning, the chants echo in your chest, and the defense feeds on it like oxygen. Mike Tomlin's crew had already built a reputation for breaking rookie QBs. Just last season, they turned 2 promising first-year passers into deer in headlights, sacking them a combined 11 times and forcing 5 turnovers. That's exactly the kind of tape Pittsburgh's veterans were re-watching in their film rooms all week. "Make him uncomfortable," said linebacker TJ Watt in an interview. The kid's got talent, no doubt, but talent doesn't mean much when you're running for your life. And that's the thing, Shedeur's strength in Week 1 had been his composure. The ball was out quick, reads were crisp, pocket presence solid. But Pittsburgh's front 7? They live in the backfield. Even a half-second hesitation could mean disaster. Inside the Browns' war room, head coach Kevin Stefanski knew this wasn't going to be a repeat of Carolina. His Tuesday night meeting with the offensive staff was blunt. "We protect the quarterback, we win this game, period. If we don't, it's going to be a long night." The plan was twofold: short, timing-based routes to neutralize the pass rush and play-action shots to catch the Steelers overcommitting. But that meant Sanders had to be perfect with his reads, and his receivers had to win one-on-one battles against a physical secondary. There was another wrinkle. Rumors out of Berea suggested that Sanders had been staying late in the film room, studying not just Pittsburgh's defense, but their tendencies in primetime games. He'd been watching Ben Roethlisberger's Monday night tapes from years past, studying how veterans use the Steelers' own aggression against them. The media frenzy. By Thursday, the coverage was suffocating. NFL Network ran a segment titled "Steel Curtain vs. Communist/Tanis." Sanders' swagger. Colin Cowherd compared the matchup to a young Russell Wilson walking into the Legion of Boom's house. Even social media influencers outside the sports world were chiming in, posting memes of Sanders walking into Acrisure Stadium in cartoon armor. Deion Sanders, never one to hide his pride, made his own media splash on the Pat McAfee show. "Y'all keep talking about what the Steelers are gonna do to him. Well, let me tell you, my son's been counted out his whole life. This ain't nothing new. He's ready." Those words were gasoline on the fire. Steelers fans took it as a challenge. Cleveland fans treated it as a rallying cry. By Friday night, tickets on resale sites had tripled in price. The weight of legacy. For Shedeur, the game was more than just Week 2, it was a statement opportunity. His entire rookie narrative could swing on how he handled that night. A win in Pittsburgh would cement his place as not just the Browns' starter, but as a rising force in the league. A loss, especially a bad one, would hand every critic their "I told you so" moment. This wasn't just about him either. Cleveland's fanbase had lived through decades of quarterback heartbreak names like Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel. Sanders represented hope, something fragile in this city, something they weren't sure they could handle losing again. Game day atmosphere. Monday arrived with the kind of tension you can feel in the air. Downtown Pittsburgh was already buzzing by noon. Browns fans in orange and brown-flooded bars, surrounded by a sea of black and gold. The chants started early. "Here we go, Steelers, here we go." By the time Sanders stepped off the team bus, the boos rained down. Camera crews swarmed him, capturing every step of his walk into the tunnel. He didn't flinch. In the locker room, Garrett and Chubb kept it simple. No long speeches, no overhype. Just a nod, a fist bump, and a single line. "Let's go take it." The tunnel walk. As kickoff approached, the stadium lights dimmed for the primetime introduction. The Steelers' defense was announced first, each player sprinting through a wall of smoke to deafening cheers. Then came the Browns' turn. When Sanders' name was called, the boos were deafening an unrelenting wall of sound. But here's the thing, cameras caught him smiling. Not cocky, not taunting, just ready. In that moment, it was clear he wasn't here to survive. He was here to compete. Opening kickoff. The cliffhanger. The Browns won the toss and chose to receive. Sanders jogged onto the field, play sheet on his wrist, crowd roaring, first down at the 25. Stefanski dialed up the opening play, a quick slant to test the coverage. Sanders took the snap, one-step drop, eyes scanning. Watt came screaming off the edge, hands high. Sanders planted his back foot and let the ball fly. Freeze frame. Where was it going? Could he thread it past the linebacker? Would the rookie make a statement or start the night with a mistake? We wouldn't know until after the break.